The au pair affair murder trial for defendant Brendan Banfield resumes. Does the jury think the au pair is credible? The defendant's accused of murder in the 2023 deaths of his wife, Christine, and a man that he allegedly lured to the home that he didn't know, named Joseph Ryan. At the center of this case is the au pair, former lover Juliana Magalhaes. She testified over the past 2 days. Cross was pretty brutal. She was questioned about numerous letters that she sent after she was arrested. At first, she seemed to be standing by her man.
I would give my life for his, and I would never do anything to hurt him or against him. Whatever they're saying, whatever they want to believe, I don't care. I would take the blame for both of us. I would do anything for you. If they want me to turn against you, if they think or whatever they believe, and if they want to blame me for that, that's okay. I can take the blame. I'll never do anything to hurt you or against you.
But then, months later, the tone of the letters turns. The au pair starts expressing frustration with Brendan and with the case.
Listen up, bitch. Better to think, not to think about moving again. I'm already pissed off at him because for the third time this week, he said he would come see me today and everything, but he didn't come. He had unforeseen circumstances. He says he'll come on Monday, and I already feel like we're behind again in hiring the specialists we need, etc. I don't even want to think about it. He's stressing me out.
So did the letters provide the defense team with a clear motivation that she flipped under pressure? What do you think? Do you think Brendan Banfield now has to take a stand and refute what his former lover is saying? There's lots to talk about here. I'm going to bring in my guest to help me unpack it all with me. Psychotherapist and the CEO of Life Counseling Solutions, Dr. Janie Lacey is here, and so is high-profile celebrity attorney John Phillips. Good morning to you both. John, let me start with you. The au pair, she was up there for a long time on that cross. What impressions were you left with, please, of her?
You know, it's a tough situation. Like we talked about last week, this was her only way out. You know, she's part of a murder, rape fantasy, like this whole crazy story. And she wanted to stand by her man, you know, but those letters from jail are always going to get you. The phone calls from jail are always going to get you. The defense is going to, try to make this out to be untrue. And now they're bringing up like this Netflix deal she had, which we can get into. That's ridiculous that Netflix is approaching people before they testify. It happens all the time. But she did a good job as these things go. And I do think Brendan might have to take the stand at this point.
Ooh, interesting to hear you say that, John. Yeah. I mean, look, there's two stories. They're apparently pretty far apart here. I appreciate that. Dr. Janie, it seems that people want to know, is this woman a manipulator, or was she manipulated? Was she manipulated by Brendan or by the government to give testimony? What do you say?
You know what I would say, Julie? Well, I could say a lot, but what I would say in short is that I think her testimony to me revealed someone that was caught between trauma bond and survival instincts, right? So when we look at that over a year, she's protecting him, but that's not unusual from my perspective in enmeshed relationships, right? We're listening to these love letters from jail. She told her family she can't believe that she may spend life in prison for someone. To me, that language for someone told me that she sees herself as someone sacrificing for him, which is a hallmark of a toxic codependent relationship. But then, as you mentioned, we see this shift, and then she starts complaining about her lawyer, and she feels abandoned, and then she suddenly flips. So I would think that the defense wants the jury to see this as her taking an opportunity, being opportunistic. But, from a psychological standpoint, that's how we see also victims finally break free, when the fantasy collapses and their self-preservation kicks in. So to me now, the question is whether the jury's going to see her as a manipulated young women, or she's a calculated co-conspirator who's now playing the victim card. That's my thoughts, Julie.
Oh, I love all those insights, Dr. Janie. Thank you. Yeah, let's talk more about the au pair. And what I cannot believe this, how she gets offered a misdemeanor and manages to mess that up and winds up taking the felony. We've got a clip where she was crossed on that. Let's take a look.
This is 2 months after you were arrested, and were you given an opportunity to plead guilty and cooperate at that time?
Yes.
Okay. And what was it that they were offering you at that time?
At that point, my lawyer had said that they were offering, in exchange for my cooperation, they would offer me a misdemeanor and I would be released on time served.
And what was your decision?
That I didn't want it.
Okay. So you rejected the misdemeanor offer
Yes.
based on what you knew?
Yes.
Oh, my. John Phillips, ordinarily, right, you go through plea negotiations, and through the course of those negotiations, things get better. Here, she wound up with worse. Your thoughts, please, John?
Yeah, but again, and I'm not the psychologist or psychiatrist. I just play one on TV sometimes. But coercive control is real, and again, she's caught up in this situation where she's stuck, and she's concerned about being deported back to Brazil and all of this. But I really wonder how that conversation went with her and her lawyer. I assume it was a public. Her mom was paying. I think her parents were paying for a lawyer. Like, it just seems odd. But when you're told to testify and you're going to stick to this story, you don't understand necessarily the consequence between a misdemeanor and a felony, right? And it's certainly going to attack her credibility overall. Oh, now you're doing it, But it's coercive control, the level of psychological manipulation, the age difference, the country of origin difference, like all of that works into that probably needs to be explained to the jury through an expert, frankly. But
Right, John. Yeah, I mean, if anything, it looks good for the prosecution's case. Like, look, we weren't messing around with her. Like, she rejected the offer, too bad. It's not coming back. You get what you get. You get the felony now for playing games with us. So for them, it's good. For her, you mentioned about the payments. Yeah, this was an interesting fact. It was Brendan's mom who was paying for her lawyer. Let's take a look at a clip, please.
Do you know who paid for your attorneys?
Who, what? I'm sorry.
Who paid for your attorneys?
Brenna's mother. She put money on my account so I can text with my mom in Brazil, my family.
And did that support ever stop?
Yes.
When did that support stop?
When I signed my plea deal.
Okay, and so when she took the plea, then the money stops. And overall, we saw a lot of people commenting that the apparent kind of seemed like she didn't really care too much, didn't seem emotional, didn't seem distraught or busted up over the, I mean, two people are dead, and she kind of had the same flat affect the whole time she was testifying. Dr. Janey, what are your thoughts on that when you look at her as a person? Do you think she really is devoid of that emotion that most humans have when lives are taken?
Well, sometimes I look at it from the outside, Julie, and I look at this as the compartmentalization, right? So when people are in survival mode and then they find themselves in these situations on any level that they never thought they would be in, they kind of put these things in, the best way to explain it, little teeny folders. So to the outside, it may look like someone's a void of emotion. It may look like they don't care, but they're really inside in survival mode. So they shut down their emotions. They suppress their emotions in order to move forward. And, and what I would also say about that is when we look at the history, like I agree with John, when we look at coercive control, when you think about what that means to the average person it's when the toxic relationships unfold. When you look at someone who's young, who's isolated, she's completely dependent on this family, and then Brandon had all the power. He was older, he was American, he's employed, he's an IRS officer, and the affair just didn't happen because they fell in love. It happened because he identified her as someone he probably could control, and then within weeks of sleeping with her, Julie, he floated the ideal of killing his spouse. To me, that was a test to see how she responds responds? Does she recoil? Does she report him? Right. So when I see these toxic dynamics, there's sometimes these tests that happen, and then she stayed in there, and he knew he had her, and then it escalated from there, from what we've seen.
Yes, really sharp analysis. Dr. Janey, thank you for that. We have to let you go. Thank you kindly for joining us. John Phillips is coming along. We want you to do the same at home. Still ahead here on Opening Statements. Oh, we're not done talking about the au pair and her body language and the defendant's body language. We got an expert joining us next. Plus,
you never make me feel like I'm attractive. You don't kiss me passionately. Kevin continues, you turn your head away. I feel like I'm fighting for affection. It's so hard on me.
oh, get ready. Wait till you hear these text messages sent by former Battalion Chief Kevin West. We'll be right back.
Did an affair lead to double murder?
The Commonwealth's Attorney's Office has secured an indictment against Brendan Banfield for the murder of his wife, Christine, and the murder of Mr. Ryan.
Prosecutors allege the defendant planned to run away with the family's au pair.
So he killed his wife and another man.
He was there, I'm gonna kill her, I'm gonna kill her.
It's a case of sex, lies, and deadly deception.
The Au Pair Affair murder trial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
At some point, while you were working for the Banfield family, did your relationship with the defendant change?
Yes.
How did it change?
It became sexual, physical relationship.
And do you recall when the relationship changed?
It was August 2022.
Juliana Magalhaes testifying against her former lover and boss, Brendan Banfield. This trial happening in Virginia, and it is trending in true crime big time this morning. So right now, what we want to do in this segment is focus on the optics in the courtroom. What was going on during her time on the stand? So prosecutors are saying that Brendan Banfield wanted to run off with Magalhaes, the family's au pair, and he came up with this murder plot, according to the au pair, to get rid of his wife, Christine. Now, on Wednesday, the two former lovers were back in the courtroom together. Can the jury trust the au pair's testimony? And what can we learn from her body language and his body language? We're here to help us break it all down. Jury consultant and human behavior expert Susan Constantine is here. Susan, good morning to you. All right, let's start by showing you Juliana Magalhaes talking about the financial support she received from Brendan Banfield's mom.
You were arrested in October of 2023, and you entered your guilty plea in October 2024. Why did you wait a year?
I'm sorry.
Why did you wait a year?
I had things I was concerned about, such as I was afraid of not being able to be represented if they stopped the payment. I was afraid of not having any way of communication with my family, my mom in Brazil, because I depended on Brendan's mother to do that for me.
All right, Susan, what stood out to you here, please?
Well, I found a pattern in her. First of all, there's when she's asked a tough question, she pauses. She asks or pretends like she doesn't understand the question and wants it repeated. This is kind of a stalling buying time tactic. The other thing is that there is a very conflicted relationship with her and Brendan's mom. So there's moments in these clips where she's asked about what we talked about, why, about the who paid for the attorney and why wait a year. When we're watching her body language, you could see, there was almost like a scratch and then there was a snip like this. That's aggression. That's animosity. That's anger. So there is a conflict. I noticed that right off. In fact, my husband and I were watching it right before we came. He goes, "Oh, I picked up the scratch and snip myself." And I said, yeah, it was very obvious, right? So when we see this, when it's right after a question, pausing, hesitating, buying time, then the scratch or the touch and the sniffs, all of that begins to tell a story. But she repeated it and 3 different questions, almost identically the same behavioral symptoms.
Boy, this is interesting, Susan. Okay, let's keep going. The next clip, she's explaining why she eventually took the plea deal to turn state's evidence.
What ultimately made you decide that you were going to enter this plea?
Was the thought of being the right thing to do. I guess we all deserved to know what really happened, and I just couldn't hold it. I just couldn't give it to myself, the feeling of shame and guilt and sadness and all those feelings.
Susan, tell us what you see here.
Oh, there's a lot of things there. First of all, you see her doing the mouth shrugs. She has a lot of mouth shrugs. But tie it to the words. There's a lot of shame, right? A lot of guilt or whatever. That's consistent with what she's actually feeling. So after the fact, she is feeling like, there's shame and there's guilt in what she's doing. But it's also negating what she's saying because there's no real sense of sadness in her face. So in other words, the synchronization of her muscle movements are not congruent from top to bottom. Even though this does this in a shrug and the chin lifts up almost like in a chin boss, this is completely, utterly flat. So when we see that mismatch, that's telling me she's giving the word, word salad, right? But that's not really a truly felt one. So the shrugging, the mouth shrugs negates what she's saying. You literally have to erase it. The shoulder shrugs, hand shrugs, and mouth shrugs are deceptive indicators.
Yeah, this is really helpful, Susan. And as you look at him there, anything you picked up on with him during her testimony?
Well, he's cowarding, right? Head down, he's hiding. It's like literally like a turtle is just kind of finding a safe place inside.
He is turtling.
Right?
Yeah.
A little double chin is kind of sticking out.
What's that doing? Yeah.
Yeah. So this is cowarding and avoidance, right? It's actually a form of what we call stonewalling. And a partner will do this to somebody when they don't want to give them eye contact. Johnny Depp did that with Amber Heard. These eyes are never going to meet yours. He's doing the same thing. He's stonewalling her.
Ooh, yeah, I see. Yeah, it seems that way. So you said, cowardly. It could be, could it be embarrassment?
Cowarding.
Oh, cowarding. I'm sorry, cowarding. Do you think he could be a little embarrassed hearing about? Because so much of this was the focus on their affair and Do you think he's at all, looking at him, ashamed of himself?
Oh, he certainly could be, and that's the reason why he's cowarding. So that's why they do that, right? So what is the reason why he's doing it? Why is he cowarding? One, he doesn't want to make eye contact. He's stonewalling her. But also, there's probably a sense of embarrassment. I don't see embarrassment written on his face, but we're only looking at positioning, head down, slumped, and collapsed. So what does that tell you? Lack of confidence. This person doesn't feel good about themselves or the situation because they're in low confidence profile. So when we see that, this guy is not having a good day. He is concerned about probably maybe his reputation.
Oh, yeah, as he should be. Wow, Susan, thank you for that. We want to get your take on something else, because this, of course, had everybody talking. We do this with every trial. The affair is no different. When we have somebody like a star witness or a defendant, we always talk about the optics, what they're wearing. And a lot of people were commenting on how, prior to trial, this is one of the photos that was circulating in the news clips. I mean, she's dressed kind of provocatively as she's, posing there. And then in court, we're seeing a very different look from her. Even look at outside the home and the body camera footage, it's different. So you go from this to then the body camera footage. She's got glasses on in that. In court, she looks very muted down, kind of I called it the librarian look, is what I was seeing. What do you think, Susan, side by side?
Yeah. It's too extreme. Okay, so whoever it is that did the witness profile, witness preparation, went too far. So to put the glasses on, dowdy, no makeup, flat, sallow looking, kind of like teacher-like, is not a good play for her. I wouldn't have done that. I would have pumped it up just a little bit because the two don't even look like they're the same person. And they're going to be comparing that. The jury is. That's the real one. This is the fake one.
Yeah, I'm with you. A great analysis as always. Susan Constantine, thank you so much.